Good afternoon. Professor Colley has asked me to provide some food for thought based on my experience to help steer the discussions this afternoon and also for tomorrow. So what I think would be useful in the next 15 minutes or so, I have two parts to my presentation. So the first part, I will attempt to provide an overview of the key issues discussed so far to help frame the discussion. And the second part to provide some insights of food for thought on how young people are using ICTD, not necessarily within the university, but generally within the field of ICTD, how young people are innovating and making use of ICT for development. Okay. So first, okay, just an overview of what I see has been discussed so far to help prompt you in the discussions. So the first question is, what can students do in ICTD and engaged learning? So we heard yesterday from Hong Kong and also this morning from Cornell University and just now in the session from participants from different countries on how students can be engaged through ICTD and engaged learning. So hopefully in the discussion we'll hear more, and hopefully also you'll have some ideas on how you could go about doing it at your university. Then there's a question of where ICTD and ICTD engaged learning fit in the university. Who should take ownership? Should a center be created, for example, to focus on ICTD, or should it be responsibility of a particular faculty? The interesting and challenging thing about ICTD is it's multidisciplinary, so it involves many different sectors and collaboration. So, but of course, someone has to take responsibility to move this forward. So would it be which faculty, from computer science, or is it from development communication? And of course, you need to have some mechanism for collaborating with other faculty. So a point for discussion is how do we go about doing this? Another issue is, okay, so what are the key components required to institutionalize this? I think in the afternoon we'll be talking about the how-to, but it might be useful to look now at what are the key components, and based on the panel discussions and the presentations. Oops, sorry. I've come up with some of the key components for institutionalization. First of all is from the top, we start on commitment. So what I've heard in many of the presentations, commitment is very important. It's a key component for building trust, as emphasized in Dr. Chan's presentation yesterday. And so this includes commitment from senior management, from faculty, from university staff, also from the partner organizations, so from the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations that you're working with, or from the community organizations or government partners. Also from the students, so commitment on having some common values and the objectives for this engaged learning, and also on why you want to do ICTD and why ICTD engaged learning. Because development is often about tackling very complex problems that you may not be solved, even within our lifetime. So that's why this commitment is very important, and to be able to see the impact in the community. So it's also important when you do engage learning that it doesn't burden the NGO or the community organizations that you're working with. They already have very little resources and very often little funds to do their development efforts. So that's why this commitment is very important. Also commitment from the partner organizations from the start, that the initiatives that you work together on, the products that will be developed, that the partner organizations will be able to use, and they're committed to continue to maintain whether it's IT equipment that you've developed. So that's also important. The next one is on policy. So I've also heard that some sort of policies need to be in place at the university level for ICTD and for engaged learning to happen, whether it's making engaged learning compulsory or providing some sort of mechanism for collaboration. Another aspect is resources, not only financial resources, but also the human resources, the infrastructure, the equipment available, and also the capacity to develop the curriculum and customize it. Another aspect is the procedures. This includes the workflow and the decision-making process. For example, how to go about implementing engaged learning, and what is the criteria for selecting the initiatives that you will do, and also the approval process. So some sort of procedures need to be put in place. Training, I also hear, is also very important. So some sort of orientation or training for university staff or students, and also for the partner organizations, to make sure that everyone has this common understanding of what ICTD is and what engaged learning is, first of all, and common understanding of what the objectives are and how to go about achieving them. And the analysis part, I put it as very broad. So this includes the whole sort of research and assessment aspect. So from before you do your engaged learning, the initial research into what has been done so far, and how do you, so you don't reinvent the wheel, how do you go about doing this engaged learning, so learning from others, and also whether the university readiness and commitment to take this on. Once we've decided that, okay, we will go start engaged learning, going into the community and finding out what the problems are. And then also the process of periodic assessment and evaluation of the effectiveness of this engaged learning on students, but also the impact of this engaged learning on the community. So I put this as really broad. So all this sort of process needs to be in place for engaged learning to be a success. Okay. So now looking at some of the issues to consider, or some of the challenges in ICTD in general. So when you decided that, okay, you want to do ICTD engaged learning, what are some of the issues to consider within your initiative? We've heard in a number of presentations that ICT is a tool, but still within the ICTD field, a lot of projects still see ICT as the solution. So, they focus first on the technology, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of the ICTD projects fail. Some studies have shown that about 70% of ICTD projects fail. So we need to emphasize that the focus is on the people's needs, and then how can technology help meet the people's needs. So I think that's an important emphasis that we've heard in many of the presentations. Also, the focus on developing the local economy. So not only introducing the ICT within a community or within a school, but also look more broadly at development as a whole, and how to, for example, how to develop the local economy. So making sure, for example, that that we use local people. We hire local people to set up equipment, or we use the local products. Make sure that once you've set up something, that people are able to, at the local level, be able to maintain it and have spare parts for the various equipment. Another aspect is make sure that ICTs don't widen the gaps. We've heard yesterday a little bit about the digital divide, so ICT can actually widen the digital divide, but there's also other gaps like the gender divide. ICT, I think, still is seen very much as a male domain, although this is changing because of mobile technology, where a lot of women have access to mobile phones. I mean, for example, in some cases, telecenters or community learning centers are set up, and women don't feel comfortable to access these telecenters. So in a way, even though that these telecenters or these ICT equipment are available, they are not accessible to women. So it's important to be sensitive to the different needs and the social interactions within the community, the social dynamics within the community. Another important issue, I think, is related to privacy and security. Because now with ICT, information can be created and exchanged very quickly. Governments, for example, are opening up their data sets where you can access and do visualizations of these data or analyze these data and then make it available publicly. The classic example is in health, especially the sensitivity to privacy issues, and make sure that people's privacies are protected, that there's anonymity in the data. And privacy issues, sometimes there's a Western notion that privacy is related to the individual, but there's also issues of privacy for the village or for the community. A classic example is, for example, you have its data sets on HIV/AIDS. You might not know who has HIV/AIDS, but with information on where they are located, you can actually discriminate a particular village where a lot of people have are HIV/AIDS infected, for example. So if the data set shows that this community has a lot of people are affected with HIV/AIDS, that community might be discriminated against. So it's very important to sensitize within engaged learning process, sensitize people to some of these privacy and security issues. Okay, now I'm going to move on to some of the trends. So this is more of a food for thought when you have your discussion. Based on my experience working in ICTD, what are some of the things that is happening in the ICTD field and youth are taking up on? So previously, especially for me, when I started working in development, when I came out of university, the path to go is to work with a development organization. So say a UN agency or an NGO to do development work with communities. But now that's changing, and mainly largely because of the internet and because of access to mobile phones and internet connection. People are more connected and people have more access to information, also direct contact with community organizations and the community themselves. So actually a lot of the development work now are done outside these development organizations and this non-profit system. Today, more people than ever are working on development issues. There could be an example where young people can get together maybe at an internet cafe with free Wi-Fi they think of some idea, they create an app, and it can go viral, and people from different countries are using it. An example is Frontline SMS. I'm not sure if you've heard of this platform. It's a text messaging platform where people can send and receive SMS in bulk. So it's a simple platform that's been developed. Simple platform that can be that has been developed, but it has gone viral, where and a lot of NGOs are using it in their initiatives. This example that I gave for Frontline SMS Frontline SMS is a free and open source software. So also I want to just talk a little bit about this open source movement that is sort of caused an explosion of collaboration among the people among developers, among young people. So because the idea of free and open source software is, once you've developed the software, you make the source code available, and anyone can access this source code and modify it, customize it to their needs, and then make it available again publicly for everyone. So then it can be continuously be improved upon. Any bugs can be fixed by anybody in the community. So for example, with Frontline SMS, there's this large community, online community, who is working to develop this platform. And this has created an online community where not only young people, but a large proportion of these people are young people that come together to and voluntarily develop these software for development. So one example is, I'll just give you some examples that's been developed by young people. One is HarassMap. So this is developed by using the platform Frontline SMS, and also Ushahidi, which is another free and open source software mapping tool. So this HarassMap is developed by a group of young people, and it allows women to anonymously report incidents of sexual harassment. So by using a text message sent by the mobile phone, then this gets mapped and it becomes a very powerful documentation of the extent of the problem. Okay, so this is one initiative developed by a group of young people. Another one is iNaturalist.org. This is an online community actually created by students in the US. So what this does is this allows the public to report on various sightings of different animal and plant species. So it's a form of citizen science. So it's helping scientists, it's bringing the public to help scientists monitor plant and animal species and report on various incidents. So sometimes species that's thought to be extinct were documented here. Another initiative is called NextDrop. So this is developed also by a group of students from the US, and it addressed the problem of the irregular access to pipe water. So in India, so what happens is women who are responsible to collect water, they have to often wait at the tap until there's water available. So this group of students found that, well, these women have access to mobile phones. So what they did is they created a platform where they connected with the utility employees and also with a group of people who would help validate that tap water is available. Then, so once tap water is available in a certain area, then an SMS will be sent to the subscribers within that area that, oh, now water is available. So then they don't have to waste the time waiting at the taps. So these are some of the initiatives developed by young people. So I think is this food for thought for how to incorporate these innovations developed by young people in the engaged learning process. I don't have answers to how, but these are just things that are already happening outside the university system, or universities are trying to provide an environment for that. So, for example, so there's some collaboration sometimes with universities and industries in creating these hackathons or competitions or challenges for youth to come up with some solutions. But the thing is, very often these events are just one time. They might be 24 to 48 hours. Students are asked to create some solutions to a problem. And because they're very short term and they usually don't have the context, these ideas often after the event, they don't get followed through. So what are the ways in which engaged learning can sort of take some of these ideas and follow through with it? So these are just some of the ideas that I have that I would like to share with you. Okay, thank you. So I think now the floor is open for discussion. I think this session is more on sort of looking at sharing your ideas on your experience in ICTD and how you've used engaged learning at your university, and maybe addressing some of the issues and challenges that I've mentioned earlier on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christine, for the very informative presentation. Now, we'd like to continue with our conference participants' discussion. We have about 15 minutes for the discussion before we go off for lunch. Any participants who have any questions or sharing their thoughts or anything, there'll be microphone passing around, so you can just put your hands up. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I'd like to pick up on some of the points that you made, which made me think. You know, with in many ways, when the students engage with ICTDs in the communities that we've heard about, they're actually doing development. And you know, my experience, and maybe it might be shared by others, even the professionals don't always get it right with ICTs in development. And there are mistakes are made repeatedly. We've heard about technology being fostered as promoted as the solution, whereas the real impact is how the technology is used. So there are many pitfalls in the way, even for the developments, even for the development professionals. So I'm wondering, kind of thinking aloud, how can we expect, you know, non-professionals coming from different backgrounds to succeed in the development endeavors? And in that respect, we've heard a lot on the kind of the supply side, and there's no doubting how students can benefit from these engagements. But my interest is, and coming from an ICT for D background, where we've learned that there needs to be a good deal more emphasis on the demand side, and that development interventions that show most promise are usually driven by demand. They come out of bottom-up approaches, and my sense is that I haven't seen as much emphasis on that within the programs that have been paraded. Just not as a criticism, but just flipping the model for a minute and thinking from the perspective of the communities who are involved, and looking for successful interventions that are going to sustain and deliver tangible benefits. My observation is I've just seen less emphasis on that side of the equation within the programs that we've heard about.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to that and continue that discussion. Actually, I I think our experience has also been that where students do not go into a community looking for an ICTD intervention, but are trying to understand the community and the dynamics and work with, perhaps with an NGO that's already doing work on the ground. And from that engagement arises the articulation of a need to which an ICT solution might be applied. So for instance, there is, and some of you may have heard about this person, Shubhranshu Chaudhary, who developed a mobile phone-based intervention in a tribal region in central India, northern central India, where he was actually working as a journalist, and it was more of a human rights-based kind of engagement. And they discovered that there was very little information dissemination or sharing happening in the community, mainly because the language that was spoken was not, there was no medium, there was no mainstream media that used that language, and the concerns of the community were not being reflected in any other medium that existed in that region. And so they used a mobile phone-based intervention to just share information. That's now actually being showcased quite widely within India. So I think there, both the articulation of the problem arose from the community, but in relation to other work that was going on, and then from that conversation, the ICT-based intervention arose. So I don't know if that's one way to do it, to work with organizations that are engaged in other areas and then see if there is a need that arises that could be addressed through an ICTD intervention.
By my view, I think to upgrade mind concept development to learn ICT is very important. And by means of efficient sources, we can develop engaged learning and ICTD. It's my suggestion.
In terms of getting engaged learning into the university curricula, I have a kind of a different suggestion rather than actually going for new courses. Today, all of us do have a component of continuous assessment in almost all the subjects we teach, isn't it? Back at home, it ranges from 20% for continuous assessment to 100% for continuous assessment in subjects like projects and all that. So can't we bring some concepts of this into the existing subjects that we teach? And in a informal way this is happening. We may not be calling it service learning or engaged learning, but we do get students to do various activities, but what was lacking perhaps is the proper assessment and all that. So as a way of introducing this concept, I believe one of the way forward is to actually bring it into the existing curriculum. Then we can move to something like what Stefan is doing. My take is that as a first step.
I agree very much with Roger. In the area of IT or ICT, the problems are very often so long-term and so large that it's not realistic to expect the students to solve it in a short period of time. Usually, a student take a subject in terms of 1 semester, 2 semesters. You give them like 3 months. They spend a lot of time in class, and so the actual time they can actually spend on the problem is not very large. So it's really not realistic to expect them to do it. In my opinion, it is the job of the teachers, the professors, who has to come up at least a framework of the solution, and then guide the students to participate in coming up with the details of the solution. I think that's why I agree with a lot of people that we need a sustainable long-term plan, and there is no escape. We have to invest in studying the issue, working with the local NGOs or the community to find out what the problem really is, and to come up with a so-called appropriate solution. And that's our job. I think that's a teacher's job, not the student's job. The student's job is to participate in the framework and come up with some details, some small part. From our experience, the other part of the equation is that the students is a little bit of we can turn it into something that the students participate, but not necessarily be really the solution. I probably should explain this. In our classes, typically we have a fairly large number of students, say 20, 40, and so on. And we make them form small teams into like 3 or 5 students in one team. And they are expected to, they are asked to come up with solutions to a given problem. For example, we are trying to build a solar oven for our projects. Right now, the students back home are doing that. And the principle is easy. You use collectors to collect the solar power, the light, and then you concentrate it into a box, and you provide insulation so that the temperature inside the box can increase up to 70, 80, 90, 100 degrees, so you can cook something. The principle is very easy. But coming with a workable solution to raise the temperature to high enough so that you can actually cook something is very difficult. It's an engineering issue, engineering problem. And not all students are able to come up with a real solution. But if I give the problem to 10 different teams, there are bound to be 1 or 2 teams who can come up with a workable solution. Then the rest of the project is to use those 1 or 2 workable solutions and replicate it so that the other students whose solution is not good enough will adopt these 2 solutions and build some actual workable model so that it can be done. So to address Roger's concern, I think one part of it is that's our job, which is to come up with an understanding of the problem and a workable framework. And then the students, they are kind of like our manual labor. They participate in implementing the solution. But in the process, they will also learn how to come up with a practical answer. Even though the framework of the solution is already there, but they still need to implement it, and then they solve the real nitty-gritties, and eventually some solution will come up if you have a large number of people who participate. And that's the process that we are trying to work towards.
Thank you. I would like to share my experience. Actually, as I mentioned yesterday, I'm from the Department of Media and Communication from Kazakhstan, Kimep University. To the question, where does ICTD could fit into the university curriculum, and where does ICTD engaged learning fit? I could answer that actually it could fit into any course, university course, where the objective is to equip students with skills that are applicable in any field, I guess, because we live in the information and communication technologies era, and of course, any students who is able to use these skills in his career and he will be very competitive. And I guess that any instructor who wants his students to learn and to be skilled will be happy. For example, I teach media and society course, and I ask my students to complete multimedia projects where they could use the different multimedia tools like infographics, or photo, video, slideshow, online video or online radio or online video tools. For example, in this course, first of all, I should say that this course is a general education course, and it is a kind of introductory course to the mass media and communication. And I have got students from different fields, including journalism, business, public policy, international relations students, so different social sciences and business programs. In this course, I ask my students to do some projects, multimedia projects, where they could use their knowledge and their skills with the help of multimedia tools. So it means that they, for example, visit some places, like, for example, one group of students, they did visit an orphanage house, and they worked with the children. I mean, they taught them, these children, English. They provided some English classes, and they shot all these activities, and they made a video on this project, and they have made a presentation of their project in the class. Another group of students, for example, they reported on startups that were launched by one young guy, and they also have interviewed him, and he has actually told how did he start and why did he do this, and actually it was like a good example of startup. And it was also was reported in the multimedia project with the help of these tools, as I said. And another point I would like to mention, it is also, as far as I supervise internship in the department, I think that ICT could be also used in internships, because as far after listening to these nice presentations, I have learned a lot of interesting things, how ICTD could be used. And I think in internship, for example, I could also implement this ICTD, doing some, maybe students could do some professional projects, and since they go and serve the community, and then, of course, they can also use and apply their knowledges. And just to conclude, I could say that from my perspective, ICTD is applicable in any university course. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we've come to an end for our session. To all our distinguished guests and speakers, our next session will commence at 2 p.m. entitled how do you institutionalize ICTD EL in the university culture, which will be presented by Professor Sujin Buriswan. For now, we'd like to cordially invite you to lunch, which will be served at the Zen Cuisine. Thank you.